Kashin Koji is currently pushing Sarada to use her Mangekyou Sharingan to eventually be able to grow strong enough to defeat the likes of Ryu, which means that there is a future where this outcome is quite likely to happen, making this fight even more important. And this is what we're currently seeing. Although the plan that Shikamaru has is quite perfect, it still relies on the fact that Sarada, Mitsuki, Ayara, and Yado have to be strong enough to be able to defeat the likes of Ryu. Team 7, based on the most recent chapter, have been able to successfully split Ryu and Matsuri up by having Konohamaru spit some game to Matsuri real quick, while Sarada, Mitsuki, Ayara, and Yado are dealing with Ryu. The first step when it comes to Shikamaru's plan has officially been completed, but this is the easiest step, the step that takes the least amount of talent and hard work. However, the most important step is what's next, which is to backstab both of them and end up collecting their torn soul. This really is possible due to the lack of experience and the childlike behavior that we are currently seeing the Senju showcase. And although we can see that the Senju are smart, or at least they are very rational, they have already started out to give quotes like the one Jira gave to Boruto, telling him that wherever he goes, he can't flee. We had a Matsuri who looked into Code's fate and saw that Code is essentially a clown that is being used by everyone around him. This already showcases a level of rationale, and we see with Jira especially, whenever he is interacting with Team 7, he always points out that they are acting irrational and that they should take the rational option of fleeing and leaving Himawari alone. This at least has been shown by the Senju, and most of them, to be quite honest, the way they talk is quite rational and to the point. However, they come to lack when it comes to emotions, as they are quite new to emotions. They are always trying to figure out more ways to be a little bit more human. Matsuri is literally the most perfect example of this in this chapter. A lot of people look at Ryu, but Matsuri's actions towards Konohamaru literally embody this. Although a lot of people hate the fact that she is acting a bit immature when it comes to Konohamaru, people think that this is a shipping contest. However, they fail to realize the writing that is behind this. Moegi already loved Konohamaru, and that was quite clear, and this was literally translated onto Matsuri. However, when Moegi was around Konohamaru, we never saw her act this way. We never saw her act so immature and irrational, and this is due to her simple understanding of her emotions. She has had a lot of human interaction and is able to calm down her emotions. She is able to control herself because she understands these emotions. Being able to understand your emotions comes from experience, which is why children are looked at as irrational, immature, and people who are a lot older are expected to be mature, which isn't always the case. However, that's what is expected of human interaction, which is why Moegi is able to act normal while Matsuri is not. We have a Moegi that represents that emotional stability due to human experience, while Matsuri, who is basically a newborn, she doesn't have that emotional understanding and can't act normal around Konohamaru due to the fact that she's experienced that emotion of love and she is quite flustered when she is around Konohamaru. And this isn't something that is singled out when we come to Matsuri. This isn't a Matsuri alone thing. Although it was mostly displayed by Matsuri in this chapter, this is quite common among all of the Senju that we saw. When we saw a Jira, we see a Jira who wants the Senju to act a lot more human. When he was talking to Hidari in the bookstore, the way that Hidari ended up asking a question to Jira was something that was quite human-like, and Jira ended up praising that. At first, when I read that chapter, I didn't really understand, but looking back at everything that we were being shown with the Senju, and especially in this chapter, how Shikamaru describes the Senju as children, we can already start to see what Ikimoto and Kijimoto are cooking up when it comes to their character. Ryu has also displayed this level of inexperience by blatantly telling Sarada that he was initially planning on killing them, which almost for a person who has a normal conversation, that would completely kill the vibe, and clearly it wasn't Ryu's intention, as he was quite happy that he was having a conversation with these people. This was a new experience, but due to his lack of experience, he ended up saying something that basically killed the vibe. This inexperience is what Shikamaru is counting on and what Shikamaru is trying to use against the Senju to be able to defeat them. Like he said, they are not evil, but in order to save and bring back the people they love, they need the Soul Thorn. So they have to defeat these guys through any means possible. If they were children but didn't have the power, this likely would have not been the path that Shikamaru would have taken. But these are children who are basically bombs. They have enormous power, but they are very immature. And this combination really is something that the Leaf is quite worried about. However, even though this plan, the initial first step, has started to work, they still have to be able to defeat the likes of Ryu and Matsuri. And this is where most of their troubles will come from. To be honest, if Konohamaru ends up acting right in the next few chapters and goes along with Shikamaru's plan, Konohamaru will have the easiest time when it comes to defeating Matsuri. And this is due to the fact that Matsuri is quite flustered and not acting as she usually does. She would have easily been able to pick up the conversation between Team 7 and the Sand Shinobi if she wasn't so focused on the fact that Konohamaru was there. This already was a blunder by Matsuri, which allowed them to actually solidify their plan and get ready. If Matsuri had realized and not fallen for Konohamaru, this would have never been the case. And that's why Konohamaru would have an easier time to backstab Matsuri. What's going to be quite interesting is whether he does, as we have already started to see that he is hesitant on this plan and views it as quite devious, almost as heartbreaking for him to manipulate the emotions that Moegi/Matsuri feels towards him and use that in order to defeat them. But that part to me isn't the most interesting, as we have a Ryu who doesn't actually have those same emotions. Although Ryu is inexperienced with the way he ends up talking to other people, he is not flustered or doesn't feel any sorts of crazy emotions when it comes to the likes of Sarada, Mitsuki, Ayara, and Yado. He doesn't have that same emotions. This is where Sarada comes in, as Kashin Koji to me is directly pushing for them to awaken their crazy powers and actually end up growing to be strong contenders in the series. This fight is for them to grow, meaning that for them to be able to defeat Ryu, they will need to be at full power. And that means Sarada needs her Mangekyo Sharingan. Because based on Kashin Koji's words, this awakening is quite likely, but it is not necessarily 100% going to happen. First of all, we simply have to announce the fact that Ryu is strong, and most people's scaling of the Senju is kind of all over the place, especially when it comes to Ryu and Senjus that are not Jura. Everybody glazes Jura and believes that the rest are not that strong. However, based on what we've seen, Ryu is at least a Jigen level threat. And this may sound surprising to you, but we can clearly analyze this. Not only was Ryu the one who found Code, he strangled him, but he was also quite confident that he could end up beating Code, literally stating that, "Oh, I want to kill Code. Jura cannot kill him." Jura literally listened to this and said that yes, you can, but you should focus on your inner target, which Ryu found out to be Gaara. This pushes the argument for Ryu being at least a Jigen level threat, which now makes this battle a lot interesting, because we've seen the likes of Boruto surpass this threshold by being able to defeat the likes of Code. And if Sarada and Mitsuki actually want to be of use to Boruto like they claim they do, they will have to be able to display power that now competes with Jigen level threats. And this isn't a simple task. You can ask Naruto and Sasuke for that. But being a Jigen level threat doesn't necessarily mean you have those same hacks, as we had the likes of Naruto and Sasuke who at times seemed like they were going to be able to defeat the likes of Jigen. However, Jigen using his crazy abilities in ways that most people simply don't use, like literally spawning the chakra rods around his neck before getting sliced, that was crazy. That was the moment where Naruto and Sasuke were supposed to defeat Jigen. So being as strong as Jigen doesn't mean that you have the hacks necessary to defeat the same opponents. And this is something that most people end up confusing. Jigen level is a power hierarchy. It doesn't always translate to being able to defeat everyone in a 1v1. In the Naruto series, you don't always have to be the fastest, you don't always have to be the strongest. If your hacks end up helping you defeat higher opponents, this is something that is quite likely. So due to the fact that Jigen had those crazy hacks, doesn't mean that Ryu could be able to escape from those same combos that Naruto and Sasuke had. So Naruto and Sasuke, with their hacks and abilities, could have been able to defeat Ryu because his abilities don't really translate well in a 1v1. And this is just a hypothetical explanation. We haven't really seen Shinki's full arsenal when it comes to him in the time skip, so Ryu may have other abilities that are crazy hacks that allow him to perform well in a 2v1 or in this case in a 4v1. But Kashin Koji instructing both Mitsuki and Sarada to go means that either they are strong enough to defeat the likes of Jigen level threats, which I doubt due to the fact that they are basically jumping Ryu 4v1. So I believe what Kashin Koji likely saw is Mitsuki and Sarada growing to exponential strength and being able to defeat the likes of Ryu. And through this fight, Mitsuki and Sarada go up a level in tier when it comes to their power. The sand guys that we have are essentially decoration to me, unless proven otherwise, so it is basically on Sarada and Mitsuki. And the entire story is hinting towards Kashin Koji and Boruto actually trying to manipulate this coming to be, Mitsuki and Sarada growing stronger. Because if you pay close attention to what Matsuri says in the chapter, it seems like Boruto is the one who left that frog there. Why would he leave the frog there, knowing that there is a future where Matsuri and Ryu end up investigating that frog, leaving to Team 7 having to fight the Senju? This is intentional from Kashin Koji, who most likely told Boruto to leave a frog there, as it would lead to a better future, and that future is where Sarada and Mitsuki end up growing a lot stronger through this fight. However, there is one big important question that a lot of people have been asking when it comes to Sarada's Mangekyo Sharingan situation. Why has Sarada not used the Mangekyo Sharingan in various different fights? People gave her a pass when it came to the Claw Grimes, but when she got the chance to fight Hidari, most people expected her to end up using the Mangekyo Sharingan. This has led to a lot of people saying is that she doesn't even know that she awakened the Mangekyo Sharingan in that chapter, as Sasuke never told her that she did. And this is a very interesting point to be discussed. And to be 100% honest, I won't lie to you guys and tell you guys I have the full answer, but here is my perspective on that subject. We have to discuss why would that be the case? Why would they make it seem like Sarada forgot how to use her Mangekyo Sharingan? How does that tie in to the story? My personal opinion is that maybe Sarada just doesn't know how to activate the Mangekyo Sharingan. The feeling that she had in that moment was so out of the world because Boruto, her lover, was about to die, and she has not been able to regain those feelings or to utilize that love for Boruto for her to be able to use the Mangekyo Sharingan over and over again, which means that somehow in the writing they are going to tie that into the part where she ends up reusing the Mangekyo Sharingan, and this time with all the abilities she is supposed to acquire and get from the Mangekyo Sharingan. To me, this arc is actually perfect for Sarada to actually learn that feeling, master that feeling that allowed her to be able to use the Mangekyo Sharingan and permanently awaken it. Because not only is Matsuri flustered in this chapter, but Sarada is. And Sarada is flustered because of everything that happened with Sumire. And everything that happened with Sumire ties in with her love for Boruto. And what was it that allowed her to awaken the Mangekyo Sharingan? It was her love for Boruto and her desire to protect him. Why is Boruto the one who goes through the worst every single time? This desire to help Boruto allowed her to awaken the Mangekyo Sharingan, and obviously the fact that she believed that Naruto was dead also made things a lot easier. But regardless, right here what we're seeing is the perfect recipe for Sarada to be able to master that feeling, attach that feeling to something concrete, and awaken it intentionally through a desire to actually protect. Because she was not fighting anybody when she awakened the Mangekyou Sharingan at that time, but now she will have that opportunity to actually be fighting someone in this upcoming arc when she is to awaken and use her Mangekyou Sharingan. Boruto is not going to be saving Sarada anytime soon. Kashin Koji literally instructed Boruto to stay in the village. If Boruto leaves the village, then everything is over and the story ends in the next chapter, so that is likely not going to happen. Kawaki is not going to save them either, or at least not now, since he is dealing with Amato, and he is saying that they're going to have a lengthy conversation about everything. So not only is Kawaki going to get his limiters removed, but we're going to find out more information about Kawaki and Amato's relationship, which means that Kawaki is not going to be able to save them. This essentially proves that they are going to be fending for themselves. Essentially, this is the moment they prove their resolve of being able to help Boruto, as they stated in chapter 69. In chapter 69, due to everything that happened in the Code arc, where they were essentially sidelined and didn't do anything, they wanted to grow in strength so that they would be able to actually help Boruto when needed. They had the time skip period. We had the likes of Mitsuki, who could actually throw blows with Boruto, although Boruto was holding back, and Sarada has already displayed speeds capable of hanging with the likes of Hidari. The big thing that we saw in that fight that Sarada missed, especially with that big opportunity that Hidari did, by using the Chidori without the Sharingan, Sarada was easily able to dodge Hidari's Chidori. However, the biggest problem that we saw is that when she hit back Hidari, it didn't do that much damage, which means that she lacks the real power or abilities that are necessary to do enough damage to the likes of the Senju, since they can continuously go back to the 10 Tails dimension and heal up. Just like Kawaki and Boruto possesses moves that are able to incinerate their targets, she needs to awaken an ability that is capable of dealing great damage. So personally, I see two paths that the story could end up taking when it comes to Sarada and Mitsuki defeating Ryu. In my opinion, one of the options is that Sarada's Mangekyo Sharingan gives her at least one ability that does major damage. I really hope it is not Amaterasu, as we've literally seen Itachi, Sasuke, but it is quite likely that Sarada will awaken it, so maybe it is the Amaterasu that allows her to do a lot of damage. It could also simply be the Susanoo and its weapons, which would be quite interesting. Or one of her abilities gives her a hacks ability that allows her to keep Ryu in place, while Mitsuki ends up finishing Ryu off with his heavy hitting move. We've seen that Mitsuki possesses a lot of moves when it comes to thunder that do a lot of damage. We saw that Purple Lightning was able to crack through Shinki's guard using the Iron Sand, so maybe that's the move that ends up defeating Ryu. However, right here we have two characters that are capable of growing in strength. This fight could be the catalyst of them reaching this new tier of power, but I truly believe that it hinges on the fact that Sarada is able to use her Mangekyou Sharingan, and that's why you have to watch this video right here as I discuss what Sarada's Mangekyou Sharingan abilities could actually end up being.